Our question for today is it required? Is it required that all Christians be apt to teach? Is the question for today.
All Christians apt to teach? Well, that's an interesting question. It sounds like maybe mixing a few ideas or something like that, because the only place that I know of that talks about being apt to teach that's a King James phrase that we find in 2 Timothy chapter 3, that's talking about bishops, talking about elders and their qualifications. And one of their qualifications is that they must be apt or able to teach. But does that apply to everyone? That's a good question.
Well, also, that's a great question, because we can take principles from that situation and apply, but also we do want to recognize that in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 24, does it mention being apt to teach? In this one, it talks about a servant. When you look at the passage, it says, "And the servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle unto all men, apt to teach, patient."
And that's a King James?
Yes, that's King James rendering there. So it's must be apt to teach. So a servant of the Lord, which is going to be one who will call himself to be a Christian. So we can glean from that of what you talked about with the qualifications, principles. Just because principles that's towards a specific office doesn't mean that everyone shouldn't strive to be found in a certain fashion. But likewise, that's just, what the standard of what a Christian should be. But also, as we just read there in 2 Timothy 2 and 24, a servant must be apt to teach. Why? Because we all are teachers. No matter who you are, everyone teaches. Everyone has an influence. And so we don't just teach by the words that come out of our mouths, but we teach by our actions.
That's right. That's right.
We teach by our actions. So in either way, we must be ready to teach the gospel and share that with others. As Paul told us that we must be ready to give a defense.
That's right.
We must be ready to give a defense. So a reason as to why we have such hope that we have. Be able to do that part, at least. You don't have to know everything perfectly, but be able to tell another how they must be saved or what they must do and why you do the things that you do.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, 1 Peter 3, verse 15, you always need to be ready to give that reason of that hope that is within you. So that's teaching. That's teaching. And so whenever you bring in that every single Christian is to be able to teach the gospel, don't get the idea that you have to stand before a large group of people. You teach your own children.
Absolutely.
Teach your spouse, teach your family, those one-on-one ways. And you don't have to have a degree in theology or anything else. In fact, when it comes to that kind of teaching, when you're standing before a crowd, whenever you are expositing the word of God, he gives a warning. He says in James chapter 3, he says, "My brethren, let not many of you become teachers, knowing that we shall receive a stricter judgment." James is putting himself in there, knowing you're going to go out there and teach. You better make sure, as Peter says, you speak of the oracles of God if you're going to speak at all.
Yep. Rightly divide the word if you're going to do that. Right? Be well studied. Understand. Don't lead others astray. Because as we know, there are people who teach in this world are not teaching the truth.
That's right.
And guess what? There's a lot of souls that they are responsible for that would
not want to be in their shoes.
One day be in eternal fire because they listen to such teachings. So he holds us to a higher standard. But as we know in Matthew 28, he gives all of us that commission that we go and teach all nations, that we spread his gospel. Because his mission, as you mentioned earlier, was to seek and save the lost. Likewise is it ours.
Amen.